Hey guys, welcome back to the Grant Mitt Podcast, episode number 111. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the turtle versus the hare and why consistency will give you almost any single thing that you want in life. A fool with a plan will beat a genius without one. And if you don't have a plan, you're going to eventually become a part of someone else's. It is so easy, even for the greats, to get caught up in the emotions of today and the things that you're facing on a short-term basis. But when you look at people who truly are the most successful in any industry, music, in business, in finance, you name it, they always think long-term. But when you look at their day-to-day actions, it's not as exciting as you would think. I always joke that if I did a vlog of my day-to-day, unless it was like an event or I'm traveling or I'm doing something exciting, the bulk of it would be so boring that probably no one would even watch it nor even pay attention. And if they enjoyed it, they'd probably just support me enough that they're just being nice. Doing really consistent things will change your life forever. Think about going to the gym. If you go to the gym for 5 times a week for the rest of your life, no matter what disability you have, disorder you have, no matter what you eat, I promise you're going to look better than someone who doesn't. If you read a book a week for 52 weeks, think how much knowledge has compounded into your brain. I saw this when I first started in sales and I was trying to learn, and I was always, good communicator, above average, but I was never elite. And so what I started doing is listening to audiobooks and podcasts and books and studying and communicating with the best people on my team that was around me. And I noticed it didn't happen overnight. But about a year after my first years in sales, everything started slowing down. I started picking up on why people say certain things. The same thing I experienced through interviewing and hiring people. After I interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people, we started noticing trends of what people were the best to hire. So we started actually putting in procedures of what industries are blacklisted from being hired at my company, what specific types of skill sets we really liked. We started noticing trends. But my message to you is that if you want to have the best year you've ever had, we can all read all these books. This podcast, I'm sure it's going to make you feel good. It's going to give you a lot of great tips, but nothing will truly matter unless you change your day-to-day actions. A great way to do this is actually reverse engineer your goal or your target. So a key way to look at this is think about the person that you want to become, the dream person that's hitting the income, that the success, the business, the friend, whatever. Just think of that person. But then slow down and reverse engineer the information that that person knows, how they dress, how they speak, what resources do they have at their disposal. If you don't create that version of yourself that has not only the resources, the capital, the network, all those things, but the skill sets that is necessary to produce and perform at that level, it just isn't going to happen. I hate to tell it to you. Even if you got discovered by someone, unless they're handling all those and creating all those resources and training you 24/7 and telling you what to do, which I guess is kind of possible, it probably won't happen, which means we have to change if we want to accomplish new things. I made a goal and I started it 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm going to listen or read a book per week, because I thought back, I'm like, man, when did I grow the most in my life? It was in 2016 through 2018 when I would sit at Barnes & Noble and just read books every single day. It was about 4 years later that I really saw the growth compound. So let's think about what you need to learn and then put all of that information into your head, okay? Same thing goes through investing. If you look at the best people who are the wealthiest at what they do, they aren't diversified. Sometimes they say the saying, oh, all millionaires have 7 streams of income. Maybe they do when they're extremely wealthy. But if you look at what it took to make them a multimillionaire or billionaire, it was usually one thing. Mark Cuban sold a really, really big tech company. Elon Musk was an entrepreneur and sold a company to PayPal, and then focused all of his energy into basically his 3 main companies. And that was it. He still to this day really doesn't diversify, doesn't really invest in any other companies besides the one he's working on, because he is an incredible entrepreneur. You think of people in real estate A lot of times they don't even invest in stocks. All they focus on is earning income and converting it into real estate. Focus on being the best of the best at what you do, and then focusing on putting your money into things that you know and you understand better than 99% of the world. You have to be simple, because when you focus on so many different things, your energy is divided. And when it's divided, even if you're great at it, you're not going to get the returns of someone who was just all in on one thing. Okay, one of the best movies I've seen is a movie about Venus and Serena Williams. So the two, really, Serena's probably the best female tennis player ever. And the movie's about their father. They grew up in Compton, California with almost no money. And I've learned this because I didn't know this. I've never been a tennis player, but tennis is a very, very, very difficult sport to get into. You have to have a ton of money, and future professional tennis players, that's all they do. They'll belong to a specific club with a really, really high quality trainer that actually follows them and takes a cut of their winnings all the way until they're a pro. It's very difficult. It's an elite club of people, similar to Formula One. Whereas basketball, football, it's a lot more organized and in our school system, so the barrier to entry is extremely low. But Venus and Serena's dad, since they were a little kid, were speaking favor and confidence. And if you go watch the movie, you'll see this. You can look it up. And he would say confident things. He would say, y'all are going to have $1 million check from this or that. You're going to be the best in the world. All these different things. And he would practice with them and the mom as well every single day. And he plotted and planned his way to make them the best in the world. And throughout the movie, you would hear him say, it's all a part of the plan. Don't worry about it. This is all a part of the plan. And what was interesting is that Venus was the first one to hit the scene. And she actually got into the pros first, and everyone was going crazy. And Serena was the one that was left out because for whatever reason, Venus was, a little bit better, a little bit earlier. And there's a scene that's right at the end that's incredible. The dad looks at Serena and says, my plan was not for you to be the best player in the world. My plan was for you to be the best ever. And Serena ultimately became that. If you can think long term and just do things when no one is looking, no one cares, and no one's thinking about it, that's when one day everyone wakes up and says things like, I always knew you'd be successful. Or you end up doing these things that look like an overnight success, but it took 10 years. If you guys have ever heard of the artist named Michael Bublé, he's from Canada and one of the best performers. Now he's on The Voice. He has unbelievable music. He sells out tours like nobody can believe. But a lot of people don't realize that for about 10 years, he was a nobody. He would perform in bars, he would perform in weddings, and he talked about how that entire time, that entire 10 years, he never doubted for a second that he wasn't going to make it. He said he knew he was the best entertainer in the world, and it was a matter of time before the right person saw him. So suddenly he was at a wedding, and he was performing at this really high-end wedding because he had really, got a name for himself performing at weddings. And there was a guy in the front row named David Foster who has created some of the best artists in history. He has, I believe, over 20 Grammys just from all the different artists and music that he's produced and created. And he walked up to Michael Bublé and said, you're moving in with me, you're sleeping on my couch, I'm going to make you a star. And Michael Bublé ended up becoming a massive sensation. But let's slow down and think for a second. During that time, which I bet was at times many challenging, I bet there was times he maybe doubted himself. But even through that, he said, I never had a doubt. I knew I was the best in the world, and it was only a matter of time. You sometimes has to take years and sometimes decades, and maybe it might take 3 months to build up and go through all the challenges and develop and being consistent and showing up when no one cares, reading that book when you're not seeing the results, applying to that job, going to that interview, making that 500th sales call in the day. Someone that you hired that you think is going to be a great fit for your company, out of nowhere, they quit and leave you. Interviewing and going through 30, 40, 50 potential investors and them all telling your idea is not good. That's not supposed to feel good. But having conviction and pushing past that moment is what it truly takes. And that's where I tell you guys, don't be obsessed with the things that you're going to get when you're successful, the cars, the watches, the network, the house. Focus on the actions that you can control. We can't control how the world reacts to what we do, but we can control the quality of the products and services and value that we bring to the world. That's why all the greatest entrepreneurs in the world right now, they used to be salespeople. They used to be marketing people. Now they're product people, because a great product will become successful just out of the quality. When you look at OpenAI, ChatGPT, it has grown as fast as any company that's ever existed because the product is so good. You look at Elon Musk and Tesla, SpaceX, they don't spend any money on marketing. They just make products so good that people tell others. We have to simplify our approach and realize that no matter how many times you say the right thing and it sounds smooth, it doesn't matter if you meet every successful person that could change your life. Nobody is going to invest in someone that doesn't have value. It just isn't going to happen. So the actual shortcut is you just have to become the person that's capable of adding so much value to the world that it's a no-brainer to invest in you, to hire you, to work for you, to buy your products and services. Don't ever underestimate how hard it is and how much you have to prepare to ultimately become that person. Okay, so let's talk about 3 steps to be great. Number 1, when you start out on a new goal, the first 2 to 4 weeks, potentially even longer, if we're talking about a business, it could be years, you will see no results. People will tell you that you're crazy, and they probably won't care. You have to push past this. Like I said, make the action the goal, not the result. If you do the right actions, the byproduct will be success just because you are becoming the person that's capable of achieving it. Number 2, focus and invest in what you're great at. My best example for this is like what just comes easy to you. You feel natural at. Like, for example, I know some people that they could sell their own shirts off your back. They could walk into a room off the top of their head, give the best speech ever. I know some people that are incredible organizers. They're so detailed, they don't miss a beat. There's other people that can build and create things. As little kids, they can take apart a computer and put it back together. Do what you're natural at doing because you will get compounding results. I heard an example that if on a scale to 1 to 10, no matter how hard you work, you can usually only gain 2 to 3 points. So if you're a level 2 basketball player, you don't have much athleticism, and you practice every day for 5 years, are you going to get better? Absolutely. But if you're a level 2, the best you could probably get is a 4 or 5. So are you going to suddenly go to the NBA? Probably not. But if you're an incredible natural speaker and you're unbelievable at leadership and you're a 7, could you become a 9 or a 10 with unbelievable work ethic, focus, and investment into your knowledge and learning and your abilities? Absolutely. Do what's natural. That's what will give you compounding results. Okay? Number 3, once you find what you're doing, increase your output and find ways to create more leverage for what you do. I have another podcast about this, and there's a couple other videos on my YouTube about increasing your output in business. And this took me about 2 to 3 years of running a company to learn, is that you don't increase your output by working harder. And yes, being smarter and working harder is going to give you 10, 5, 20, 30% increase, but it's not going to 10x your business and your output. A way to scale anything is through 4 to 5 different things. Number 1 is people. If you have 10 people working under your business that are all aligned and focused on the same mission, but they also specialize in things that you don't specialize, your output and the continued growth of your company is going to maximize a hell of a lot more than if it's just you. Next is content. Okay. If content, like right now, as I'm talking to you guys, if you are watching this video and your full focus is on this podcast and you have content and advertising that is being ran continually, even though you're focused on this podcast, or even if you're at lunch or dinner with a family member, or you're taking an hour break, or you're going to the gym, what's happening? More and more people are seeing, viewing, and engaging with your content. That creates more output. Okay, the next is technology, code, and AI. Okay, if you can integrate AI into your business, that could eliminate a need to hire customer service people. You could have appointment setters that are actively setting appointment. You could have automations. For example, the website. I have two guys that I work with. I'm helping scale their tech business. They have an incredible website. So all they have to really focus on is improving it and then marketing and advertising it, because the website is going to produce output 24/7. So they have people all over the world utilizing that website that's giving them all the data and everything that they're purchasing it for. And that's creating more output. And then the last one is capital. And so by increasing your capital, whether from an investor, whether of lines of credit, no matter if you're the wealthiest person in the world, we only have so much money. Why do the wealthiest people in the world utilize other people's money to scale their business? Because it increases the output. You're able to hire people faster. You're able to spend more money on advertising. You're able to improve the product at a much more rapid rate. That's how you increase output. And so wherever you're at now, wherever you want to be, it's going to take you thinking differently. And a good saying that I've always tried to take with me is working harder is almost never the answer. Think about every massive improvement that you made that increased your income, that changed your life for the better. Sometimes it's working hard, but almost always it was a creative idea or thought that made you do something different that gave you a competitive advantage. You have to think different, and you ultimately have to increase your output. So over the next year, and let's say even on the short term, let's look at what are daily actionable steps that you can implement today and be consistent at throughout the feelings, throughout the highs, throughout the lows, that will better position you to have an incredible year, incredible decade, and ultimately achieve the things that you want. So hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. As always, you can find me on all my social media outlets at Grant Mitt, and you guys can find me at Grant Mitt. So hope to talk to you guys soon. I'll see you guys for episode 112. Thanks, guys.